This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I'm Brent Jackson.
Brent, today we have Mandy Mills and David Getson from Compass Real Estate here in Washington, D.C. Mandy and David have one of the best teams, the most successful teams in the entire city. I know you compete with them a lot.
We do.
Yes. In the same, very much the same arena.
We like having our competitors on the board.
I know, we really do it.
Yeah.
Just bring them right on and grill them.
Yeah. I also think they're one of the first like mega teams in DC. I mean, I think when teams took off, when I got into business in 2005, it seemed like there was a lot of solar practitioners. And around I don't know when you guys started your team, but it seems like, in my knowledge, you guys are one of the very first teams out of the gate.
I think that's true, actually.
Yeah, we both were on teams sort of previously and then got together and thought we could do it better, which is, how I think things happen. We didn't invent the portable audio player. We just made it better. It's sort of how we think about it.
Yeah.
Well, individually, when did each of you start in real estate? And
So we both started in 2003. I started a couple months earlier in 2003, and I started with Bill Hounshell. I was in film and television, and I was miserable. And my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, when people love you, but they don't overly like you because you're miserable to be around. He's like, baby, I love you, but you're not that much fun to be around. Can we look for a different job? And I was really good friends with Bill Hounshell's boyfriend, Nick, also at the time. And he just, I knew him socially, and Bill basically recruited me and was like, you'd be really good at real estate. You should come sell real estate. And of course I was like, I could never do that. That's not cool enough. Because I'm thinking of Annette Benning vacuuming.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I will sell this house. I will sell this house. And I was like, ooh.
That scene comes up a lot.
I know, right?
In my office, yeah.
But now I feel like I could just be okay with being Annette Benning, right? Vacuuming and being like, I will sell this house.
We do that with our group text, like every Sunday. It's like we send out that meme. It's like, I will sell this house today. We're just like stretched out across.
But, as a 28-year-old who was in film and television, I was like, I could not possibly, sell real estate. And then I started selling real estate and ended up being pretty good at it.
Really good at it.
And I was like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. So that was my kickoff.
Yep.
I think your story is better.
I got into real estate because I was dating somebody, and he was really concerned that he was going to lose his job. So he decided that he wanted to have a backup plan and decided that he would take classes for real estate. And so he was attending real estate school, and we had just started to see each other, and I just wanted to spend time with him. So I just went to class with him and I just would sit in class. Wow. And then I didn't even pay for the class. I just went to the class and sat there. And then somehow they just included me in all, obviously because I was sitting there, they included me in all of the things. And so I just took the test and got licensed.
What were you doing for income?
Oh, I was working at a small marketing company. And so I was doing marketing anyway. So I just got into it because
David's literally had 100 jobs. He was ran a call center.
Yeah.
Ran hotel staff.
Yeah. I've done a lot of different things to prepare me for this beautiful real estate career.
It's now the now glamorous business of real estate.
I think that every time I have to clean out someone's toilet or pick up their trash or kick a dead rat off of a stoop or whatever, I'm like, yeah, this is really as glamorous as people think. Yeah, right. I say that constantly to myself. Yes.
Well, I'll share a little quick real estate is glamorous anecdote for you guys. So I recently had a listing, a co-op building on 17th Street, and I just wanted to go double check the unit before the final walkthrough, just in case.
As one does.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Just right. It had already been looked at, but one more time.
You had a spidey sense.
Mm-hmm. So toilet was clogged. Someone, a worker had been, the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know the story.
So I'm in this co-op building, and I'm like, there's got to be a plunger somewhere, So I just start knocking on doors looking for a plunger, and the one woman who's in the building home that day, she's like, oh, I have one of these things, and she pulls out some auger thing. I'm like, yo, I that's too much. I literally went into the basement of the building and just looked all over that building, found a plunger.
And
good for you.
DIY.
You are a better man than me. I don't know that I would have I would have been like, somebody needs to come flush this toilet.
I would have called the handyman myself. I'm
Yes.
like, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I was there.
What was
like,
the price point?
The price point $350.
Yeah.
That's
You
even
know?
better.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
recommend that every seller keep no matter what, keep some toilet paper and some paper towels handy in their home when they're selling, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
you never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
Well, you do know.
I mean, you absolutely do know.
All right. So you guys started in real estate individually. Were you both with Bill Hound? Bill Houndshell is an old school real estate name in DC.
Yep.
I knew Bill really well too.
Yep.
And so you both started with Bill?
No.
No,
He
I started
was
with
running around with Martin and Jeff.
yeah, I started with Martin and Jeff over at
Martin and
Coldwell
Jeff,
Banker.
also old
Yeah,
school, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
old school, yeah. But great guys to
Yeah,
have
totally.
started with. Yeah.
So when you started, Mandy, with Bill Houndshell, was Bill Houndshell at Coldwell Banker or Bill Houndshell had his own brokerage?
No, we were at Remax.
Oh, Remax.
We were at Remax. We Charlie, talk about some old school names. Charlie Bangle. Who was the Georgetown doyen? Jean
Smith.
Was it Jean Smith?
I saw her the other day. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. She used to have her picture on all of the grocery carts at the Safeway. Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
One of Bill's favorite stories about Jean was like her fax machine or her copier would break and she'd just be like, get a new one. You know, like it was like those days of
Yeah.
like, well, we are certainly not going to fix this. What a fax machine. That's how long ago it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were with Martin and Jeff and we met doing deals together, which
Yeah, we met doing a deal together, which is a really funny story. So basically the market was super crazy and, it was back, I don't know if you remember, it was back in the days when things went $200,000 above the list price. Oh, wait a minute. The first go around.
Yeah.
So, you'd look at something that was $350 knowing you're going to pay $550 or whatever. And so Mandy was a listing agent on this little condo and
in Columbia Heights. Yeah.
in Columbia Heights. Yep. And, just as a sideline, the funny thing about all of that too is that remember you get like a streak of things and you're like, oh, I'm the basement specialist now, or like,
like all my listings, like I was like a little baby agent running around and every listing I had was a basement. And like people were like, you're the basement queen. I was like,
Don't
I
say
don't
that.
think I want to be that.
Yeah. Or you list like all the, like, you're like, I'm the single mom expert right now, or whatever you just have these, it's really weird, I think, in real estate that you hit like all these like really weird streaks where you're like, now I'm the divorce, or whatever the thing is going on in people's lives.
So
It's,
true.
it just
So
seems
true.
like it magnifies and comes to you.
You sell to everyone at Marriott that year.
Right.
Like every single person works at Marriott. You know?
Yeah,
And
it's
you're
just
like,
sort of-
I'm the Marriott person.
Yeah, it's sort of weird how that happens. Anyway, so she had this condo listing and I had this woman that had lost out on a few things. And so I had written this offer, and back in the day, well, as you know, you would expire the offer. And so I called her and I'm like, hey, I'm going to expire this offer. And she's like, well, you can expire it if you want, but my client is a bit of a pothead. And so he just sort of gets back to me whenever he wants. So it's going to just expire.
Right.
And I said to her,
he wasn't a prompt returner of.
Right.
yeah, and I just said to her, you have a really honest voice and I believe you, and so I will not expire this offer, but please don't shop it. And she's like, I promise I will not shop it. And then that was the beginning of our friendship and our business, really our sort of business relationship testing out.
Yep. So we would go back and forth and do deals together. And
then I'd ask her, let's be business partners. And she'd be like, ha ha ha, okay, one day, ha ha, or not even that. It was not even that like agreeable. It was more like, ha ha, I've got to go, click.
yeah. And I mean, I had
Not in a mean way.
I didn't know what I was doing. I feel like I was like this little baby plucked from, doing this completely other career, and just sort of happenstance started selling real estate. And I think it took me a minute to get my footing and understand. And, I felt like Bill had done me this great service by mentoring me. And I think that was very true. And I felt a loyalty to him
For sure.
for a while. So, yeah.
So when did you guys decide timing was right? And where did you guys?
I think just one day I was like, yeah, we should do that. What am I waiting for? And so we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when we were like, how are we going to do this? And I think Bill was like, don't leave me, and maybe he just perceived that out of his brain. I don't know that he said it out loud.
Wait, were you
Probably said
working?
it out
So
loud.
with Bill, were you just a sales agent for his company, or were you working with him as
I mean,
doing all of it?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to say exactly.
Mhm.
he was not selling a lot at that time. So he was basically sort of managing the sales team
At Remax,
which was me and Mansour and Joel Furtick and, like a little cast of characters.
And that was one of the things that we were trying really hard to figure out, is sort of where we wanted to be and who we wanted to be with when we were talking about joining up. And I think that, just philosophically, there's a lot of things that Mandy and I talk about philosophically. And one of the things that we talk about philosophically is that real estate agents have a tendency to sneak away in the middle of the night. They just decide that they're going to go somewhere else, and they pack up their crap, and literally in the middle, after dark.
We're the only profession that does that. Every other profession would go to their boss and be like, hey, I've gotten this other offer that I'm entertaining. What do you think?
And nowadays you just see an Instagram post, you're like, oh, okay,
Right.
now they're with whatever.
And really, it's you go in when the office is closed and pack up your desk. And we just are like, that's super weird. Why wouldn't we just have a conversation with the person we're with and be like,
Right.
what do what's your offer?
Yeah. So when we got together, we actually interviewed both with Bill and with Martin and Jeff and Cole Banker to try to figure out because that's what we knew. So, so that's what we did. And then Bill was like, well, I'm thinking about starting my own brokerage. You guys can be part owners in that. Is that something that you would be interested in? And so that sort of took us in that path.
Yep.
That direction.
So we started that brokerage with Tyler Garrison.
Yep.
Mansour, David and I.
Donnell was there at the time.
Donnell was there, but he wasn't part.
Fernando was there.
Fernando was there.
Who else was there?
Lindsay Dreyer.
Oh yeah, Lindsay. Oh yeah.
It was a nice little power brokerage.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah, really. And that we had that office that
Right.
then
Which was a
turned
great
into the
location, as
Sotheby's
you know.
office.
14th Street office?
Yeah.
Right.
1506.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we sort of.
Yeah, that was a nice little powerhouse office.
Oh, Donna Mank.
Donna
She came
Mank,
later. Oh,
Donna
Donna
Mank.
Mank. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, if anyone is listening to this that we've forgotten you, it's like the Academy Awards. We're so sorry. You were very
Right, yeah.
important.
You were giving everyone shout outs right there.
Yeah. I think the owners were me, you, Tyler Garrison, and Mansour. And I feel like there was one other person, but I can't think of who it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Clinton Finch was there.
Clinton Finch was there.
Oh my gosh. Hi,
We're
Clinton.
going in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah,
Yes.
super.
Anyway,
So when you guys were there, you formed your team, you were part owners. When did you guys start to expand from just the two of you to buyer agents and a full-on team?
so right away we hired an assistant. And this is I don't want to jump ahead in your questions, but part of your questions are what do you speak about? And it's hire an assistant first. And it's so scary because you're like, well, what if I can't afford them? But you can, because it allows you to do the things that you're good at. And I think to try to get a buyer's agent and feed them leads that you should really be working yourself, right? So you hire an assistant to do the things that you shouldn't waste. And I don't want to say waste your time. You shouldn't spend your time doing we always say the doctor doesn't answer the phone and make the appointment. Maybe you're not hanging the lockbox. Maybe you're not uploading the disclosures to MLS, all of those kinds of things. So that was our, we joined together, and within a couple months we hired our first assistant.
Yeah, and technology has changed so much too. I think that technology has super enabled real estate agents. It's really interesting because technology is in a lot of ways has enabled real estate agents. I think it's much easier to be a solo practitioner now because when we were on the fly, we all had our cell phones, so we would call our assistant and be like, we just drove past this thing. What's the price? Because you couldn't really access any of it from your phone at the time. There were no apps or sort of the data wasn't there.
There were a lot of calls to the assistant to find out what, because
sure.
when you're driving your client around, what's that? You're like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
So
And
there was a
now we
lot of
just
calls.
know.
Now you just know because you look at the phone. It's just a lot easier.
Yeah, and usually the consumer has as much information as we do with all these different apps
doubt.
and platforms because they'll know before. It's oh, it's been on the market for 178 days. It's had 2 agent changes
Right.
and all this. And oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
From the back seat as
Right,
you're
from the
driving
back
by.
seat.
No,
You're there
totally. Yeah. We have
yeah.
we have a new agent on our team, and I had him look with some clients, and I'm like, I just want to make sure they've been looking for 2 years on their own. They've just hired the team. They're going to know more about real estate than you do. But so just buckle in. But it's going to be fine. And literally, when I talked to him later about it, he was like, that all what you said was exactly. They're in the back seat, and they're like, what's the condo fee on the next one? We're going to say, oh, never mind, it's $483 or whatever. So
Right.
It's just funny how the technology has really changed the industry, I think.
Yep. So Shannon was our first hire as an assistant. And then a lot of our team building, I hate to admit this very publicly, but was really happenstance. Like it was just like, it just sort of like organically happened. So we sold a house to Robert Crawford. He was working for a company downtown, decided to leave that company and was like, I want to come sell real estate with you guys. So Robert was our first, right? Robert?
I think so, yeah.
And then like we sold a property to Tyler Jeffrey's boyfriend at the time. And I think like you knew him because he was like the door guy at Nellie's. And
Yeah.
David was like, you'd be good at real estate. You should come work with us.
Yeah, side promo, Rob and Tyler have both they've been on our show as
Yeah.
well. So you can go back and listen to that anytime.
Did they mention us?
I think they did.
They must have, because that was part of
That's
the
their
genesis.
origin
Yeah,
story.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
met also.
Yeah. So they were the first two team members. And then Donnell came to work at Houndshell and we were like, we love you. Will you please be on our team? So he joined the team and then we sort of slowly grew. But I think part of it that we philosophically that we really did intend on is like, we wanted to have a real team. You know, we didn't want to just have a team in name. Like we wanted to be able to support each other and learn and grow from each other. And I mean, this is the Wayback Machine, but I went on my honeymoon and I was in the middle of a deal. This was pre-David. And I had to like find a payphone in a little village in Mexico to
Totally.
call and make sure that this very needy client was being taken care of. Whereas like, I would never have to do that anymore because our cell phones work everywhere. No,
Yeah,
because I feel like I have like real support of people that care about the clients in the same way that I do. And I think that part of being a good real estate agent is being able to step away from the constant completely.
The constant fire drill emergency of everything. Yeah.
And that is a truth. I found a payphone in like, this was when Tulum was just like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard balancing act because I mean I do some traveling, but it's because we're so available. I also think that's what makes us successful is that you will step away from a funeral or wedding or whatever to get the deal done. I'm not saying that's the right way, but for us, and we have a trusted team. We've got great agents on our team, but it's like literally I've been at funerals before where I've stepped aside to like make a deal happen.
I'm a natural introvert, so sometimes getting to step away from the funeral or the wedding is really actually nice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that can wait for a little bit later. This is not an emergency. It's real estate.
And that's the truth of it, right? It's like, it's an artificial, like you guys talked about the story earlier about the deadline at what XYZ time, and then the pothead isn't going to respond. But it's like, you know, if he responds a minute later and it's ratified, is the buyer going to be like, no, thank you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really funny thing because one time we were doing a deal, was it with Michael or Jonathan? Probably Jonathan Taylor, right? Yeah. And you were like, you'd written on the house and you submitted the offer. And then he's like, I'll get back to you in a little bit. I have to call everybody else and just let them know that this offer.
Yeah,
and you were like, I'm so happy that somebody just said
as
the thing.
honest. Like we're all shopping the offer. Like, I mean, expire it, don't expire it. Like we're all making those calls.
Right.
I mean,
Like,
you should
Totally.
be. That's your job.
that's your job.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And I was like so refreshing just to be like him be like, I'm gonna call every other person that's seen this and I will get back to you.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
That's great.
honesty is really the best policy.
It was, I mean, it was refreshing because usually most people are like, oh, I'm going to see if I can find them. And, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of like,
they're
They're out of
work,
town.
right?
there's an
Yeah.
excuse, which is 99% true, but whatever.
Kind of,
but
right.
kind of. But when he was, I don't remember the house, but I remember you were just like, oh, he's gonna call. Like we'll hear back in a couple hours. He's gonna call everybody, And she was like so excited that he was honest. It was pretty great.
So you were with Bill Houndshell when you guys started, but then you guys moved to Compass kind of early on when Compass moved to town.
Well,
So first we moved to Coldwell Banker, and that was another whole thing. We felt like we'd done as much as we could do at Houndshell, and we felt like we really were trying to grow our name and business. And like there are just limitations of a boutique brokerage, which I think you guys would both agree with. So I was saying to David, I felt like LeBron James, like everybody in town was talking to us and we were like, we'd go back and forth to everyone. And I was like, oh, this feels sort of terrible, but it's nice to be wanted. So and we went with Kevin McDuffie at Coldwell Banker, and Kevin said, if you hadn't have come to me, I would have felt like a bride left at the altar. Like because he was like really, really, really. So we were at Coldwell Banker for a little while. And we loved Coldwell Banker. Like we were number 7 in North America. Like they would take us, wine us and dine us. We would go to these little boondoggle trips and you know, President's Club and all that kind of stuff.
And we're still friends.
Yeah, we love Kevin. Like and
Kate and all
Kate
them.
and all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think when we leave a company, we don't pack up in the middle of the night. And we've done this with everyone. When we went to Coldwell Banker, we sat down with Bill and we're like, we just need more advertising support, more brand recognition. We need all of these things. And he tried to throw a Hail Mary with Split, I think. And we were just like, we're really looking for something different.
But how did the exit strategy work from Hound Shell? Because you guys were percentage owners in the firm. Like, is there a cash out, or it's just like you're done with it and you're going to something bigger and better?
It's a really complicated story, but basically we sort of just we knew that it would be better. The ownership percentage that we had wasn't substantial.
Right, okay.
It was just sort of enough, and I think
the company was basically break even for various reasons.
Yeah.
Small boutique brokerage kind of is.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
It's not like we were sitting on some pile of gold.
Right.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was fairly easy.
Easy. Right.
Honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving Coldwell Banker to go to Compass was a different
That
story.
was
How
hard.
long were you guys at Coldwell Banker?
How long were we with Coldwell Banker? I don't remember. I know when we left because we left in early 2015, but
Yeah.
probably 7 years.
I was gonna say I think 7 years. Yeah.
7 years. Something like that. Yeah, maybe even a couple years longer. We like no ill will towards Coldwell Banker.
Yeah, we were not at all looking to
we
leave.
were not at all looking
It's
to leave.
Robert sold us.
Robert Refkin came to town and we met with him for like 30 minutes. And I was 8 months pregnant at the time. And Robert left and David's like, we got to go to Compass. I was like, what are you talking about? We're not going to Compass. And he's like, this is the future of real estate. We've got to go. Like we've got to do this. And I was like, I'm about to have a baby. Like, do you see me right now? And
But that's the future. He's talking about the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we went, I was like, well, let's go to New York. And if New York is impressive,
I always forget
we'll
that
go to New York.
part, yeah.
So we get on the train to go to New York. My doctor is like, do you need to know the hospital? Should we fax your records to a hospital there? I was like, well, it's Manhattan. Certainly we'll be fine.
Right.
But we go, I mean, I'm waddling around at this point, and we go and we meet with Robert, but we meet Leonard. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Leonard Steinberg. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, he is like infinitely more charming in person than he is like in all the ways that you've seen him. Like, he is one of the most amazing humans. And
He was in one of the books I read, but I think it was 15 Central Park West. He bought like the cheapest unit in a multi-million-dollar building
Mhm.
and then just took it over
Mhm.
and became like a
Mhm.
mega agent.
He
Right
is
there.
definitely a mega agent.
Yeah.
And he does it with such humility and panache. It's sort of amazing.
His grace is
Yes.
just, I mean, and yes, he's so humble. Like, he's a wonderful person. And Matt Spangler, who was the creative director of Compass, was there, and
The tea guy, whose name we don't
like
remember.
a little guy who went to MIT and he would just sip his tea. But it's just like all the things they were doing with, like, you
So
know,
they really impressed you.
it really impressed us.
Well, the funny thing is we left our bags there
Yeah.
because we
On
wanted to go
purpose.
because we wanted to go back and
Right.
make sure it wasn't like some Hollywood set.
Oh,
like,
very funny.
Yeah, we're like, let's just leave our bags and we'll come back. So then we went and grabbed lunch or did something, and then we came back and we wanted to make sure people were still running around and it wasn't just like a set.
And we
Yeah.
brought Donnell with us, Donnell and Chris, my husband, who was our marketing director at the time. And Donnell, we get on the elevator and Donnell, who was like, I'm not going to Compass.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm
this is-
staying at Coldwell Banker. And we're like, well, come to New York with us. And he gets on the elevator. He goes, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I'm going to Compass.
that
That's
literally
funny.
happened. Yeah.
So in 2015, can you tell us the volume of business roughly, and then like the makeup of your team? Because that's another question I have is you're taking your team from Coldwell to Compass, which is a new startup, and like, are there other agents that were kind of iffy, or everybody had their trust in you guys?
Everybody had their trust in us. Everybody went with us without question. Donnell was the only one. And, we sat, like, our senior agents who'd been there the longest, we sat down and we're like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. And
This is why.
this is why. And Donnell was the only one that's like, we've got a good thing going here. Why are we thinking of changing? And so he came to New York with us and he was like, I'm in. But everybody else just sort of came. I think at that point we probably had about 10 agents, and we've always been fairly staff heavy. So, of course the staff is coming. And we
So
were
staff heavy, what does that mean? Like, quantify that. Is that like
we generally have like
5?
a 1 to 2 staff to
5,
agent
yeah.
ratio. Like almost always we're sitting about that number. We, grow and shrink as needed based on what the economy is
What's
doing.
going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID, a
Mhm.
slow market, all those
Right.
things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everybody came, and yeah, I think we've been really happy with the results. I mean, at some point, I think everyone can agree they're all pretty similar, and there's some, perks here and some perks there, but yeah.
You guys have done well. I mean, you've carved out a niche within Compass, and you've also got your niche in the geographical areas too.
I think that one of the things that helped our success tremendously with Compass is we were literally the first team to sign on. Like, they had acquired Reichman Real Estate, but those agents just sort of like came with that acquisition.
Sort of like how we went to Compass and our team came, but yes.
Yes, but we were the first people to sign on to Compass. So like them announcing that as they announced the opening of Compass, and the Mandy and David team has come, I think had some weight for Compass, but it also had weight for us because I think we rode the crest of that wave for a long time, that like any Compass sign that went up anywhere was sort of attributed to us. And that was like,
because they were so new in the marketplace. So you'd see the sign,
Right.
they knew we were with the Compass,
Right.
and so it would feel like it was our sign,
Yeah.
even if it had a different name on it.
yeah.
So fast forward, I guess 8 years now, you've seen them grow from basically you guys being the first to where they are now, both agent wise and volume count. I think they're number one in the DMV, looking at different numbers.
Market share, yeah.
Market share, but like
In the nation.
in the nation, like how does that make you guys feel now, like in DC, that the little baby has grown up to be an adult now?
That's a great question. And I think we're tremendously proud. And I think a lot of people come to us and say, we came to Compass because of you guys, or, I think Compass became a name because of you guys. But, sometimes your teenager grows up and does some annoying things,
Right.
like, sure. Like it's, we're now a ton of agents. And I think maintaining a culture in that
With that
environment
size, yeah.
can be challenging. And I think Compass does a great job of it.
They do as great of a job as sort of
As they
anybody
can,
can
yeah.
do. I mean, it's,
Right.
Sure.
it's sort of like when you have a team, which you guys I'm sure know, and some other agent calls you and they're like, so-and-so on your team did this thing. And you're like, still an independent contractor. I don't know who they're working with.
Right.
I don't know what they've shown, but I'll call them. And I sort of feel that's the same way with the way the brokerages are too. Like at a certain point, just we're a bunch of independent contractors and people are going to do what they're going to do. But you try to just always hear the person and listen to the person and do the right thing. And I feel like that's sort of what Compass tries to do as best as they can with, however many tens of thousands of agents.
And I think Robert Refkin does a really amazing job of making people feel seen. Because I think at the end of the day, everyone just wants to feel seen. And he does that. Like he'll just shoot you a little text message or leave you a little voicemail of like, or an email. And, is it him or not? Does it matter? I mean, when it's a voicemail, it's him because it's his voice. But, like just.
Unless he's hired somebody that can do his voice, which would, maybe with Robert, that could be possible.
But I mean, he left us a voice message over
On
Thanksgiving, just like he's thankful for us. And I'm like,
who does
he's
that?
the CEO of
Right.
a national company. And like, that's it. I mean, it still makes you feel special.
We're with Mandy Mills and David Getson from Compass. So, okay, let's talk about your team some more. Let's talk about, people are always listening to our show. They're wondering about starting their own teams or joining a team. How many salespeople are on your team right now?
So we ebb and flow. I'm going to say we ebb and flow between about 12 to 20. And I think that, I don't know if you feel the same way, but like, it's like shoes, sometimes like the shoes feel really comfortable and then you walk around in them
Brent likes
and then
his shoes.
I
they're
do
like,
like shoes.
and then they're like uncomfortable, or sometimes you're like, oh, those are so pretty, but they're going to hurt my feet. But then they end up being incredibly comfortable. And I think some people want to sell real estate and they're not that good at it, or they're, the fit with the team. So there's always a little bit of,
So you'll bring on less experienced agents who are just beginning, or do you have a criteria?
Our criteria is our gut.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah, we've tried to put some systems in place to sort of help us stay out of the first level of discussions with people. Because, I mean, if we like somebody, we're generally like, yeah, let's give it a shot, And so sometimes having another person to have that initial conversation and sort of gauge how they feel. And then it just allows us to have a few more data points to have a discussion surrounding what to do with the person.
So we sort of have a gentle recruiting, which we're happy to talk about, but a lot of times people come to us, and I think like people who've never sold real estate before, like it's a hard, like people are like, oh, I want to sell real estate because I want to have my own schedule and I love HGTV. And you're like, well, that's not, I mean, right?
Yeah,
you
I saw
have
Bravo,
that, right?
whatever that show is on Bravo.
Yeah.
All of them.
And
You
you're
just
like,
share the 3 listings and then they buy something and then it just smoothly gets to settlement. I mean,
We
that's
do it over drinks, like it
Right.
feels done. Right?
Yeah, right.
You don't have
my
jobs,
favorite
it's
is the
fine.
flexible schedule, because we're like, by a flexible schedule, you work all the time. Sure. But I think that, you know, we found people in the service industry generally make really good real estate agents.
That's
so
true.
like
'Cause they have
bartenders and waiters, because they customer service and they work
terrible
you know.
hours.
Right.
They work when everybody else is off, which is so similar to what we do.
Yeah.
So I think they make generally good.
So that's been some of our recruiting, and, you know, like other agents who are, you know, right on the cusp of doing a great job, but maybe just need a little help. And I mean, you know, David said, you think you could be a lone wolf agent today. I don't. Like, I don't see how anyone can be a lone wolf agent based on the pace that this world moves in, and that people want everything now. And I think like it would be close to impossible for one person to give them the entirety of the now in a consistent manner, while also having any time for themselves or family or whatever it is that you like to do. So
going into the, I guess, administrative side of your business, like how many admins, and is there like a hierarchy, like a COO or managing director? I've seen some people have been called.
we have a director of sales who helps us run the team. So helps, as David was saying, like recruiting, agent training, anybody that comes to us, whether we've recruited them or whether they've reached out to us, definitely interviews with at least 2 other agents on the team and our director of sales, and then generally one of us. And that's like what he was saying, just like a gut check and layers of like, is this person, you know, I think the culture of our team is really special and we want to protect it. Like, you know, having one person that loudly complains, as you know, can sort of turn the tables sometimes. Mm-hmm. So having multiple layers of people interview them. So we do have our director of sales. Once they come on board, she helps train them, mentor them. We do have a mentor program, but she sort of like oversees all that. And then just, you know, a daily question or problem or whatever, she's sort of the first layer. We try not to get involved mostly in like the little scuttle of the team.
And then you have marketing, listing coordinator, contract to close.
So we have we have contracts to close, and then we have our chief of staff for the 2 of us who sort of helps run the business. So we have different marketing people that do things like on a
ad hoc basis.
Like our social media person is part-time and not local, and we have a designer who will do stuff for us on a contract basis and stuff like that. So and then just a person to run around and like a handyman-ish.
Right.
Check
You guys
the
have an
property.
ISA?
No.
We have explored it in the past, and we keep like going back and forth with it. And I think we just haven't either had the like bandwidth to like sit down and be like, this is how you have to do it. But it hasn't worked for us, and we continue to talk about it. But
I mean, we've had a person try it, and then sort of when the pandemic happened, we sort of went in. I mean,
she was a salaried employee.
We went in a different direction, and then everything, of course, picked back up. And then we didn't need the ISA because everything was rolling. You know, it sort of didn't. We try to meet the business where the need is.
And I think a lot of like newbie agents that come in and don't have anything to do is a great like ISA. Like here's a list of 20 people. Call them.
That's smart.
Yeah.
The number wise though, so if you go from 12 to 20, that's a pretty big gap. I mean, do you have a couple of agents on your team, like the more senior, that is like, we don't want to cap out more than 12. We get to 20, it's too much, and then they're like a small fish in an ocean, so to speak? Or is everybody cool with you guys growing from 12 to 20? I'm just thinking, even like in our group, right? We were at 7, and we think like 10 is our cap, but like, you know, could we do 12? Could we do 15? Making sure we have the support in the back. But
I mean, I think
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I think that part of it for us is that philosophically, we've always tried to make other people's lives better through real estate. And so part of it for us is not just about, it's about helping that individual be able to achieve personal and financial success through real estate. And so, and I think that we've imparted that conversation to all of the agents on our team. And so like when another person gets added, I think the problem comes in if you don't want the person if we have team members that don't want a person to be added, that's sort of where it becomes problematic. But we try to philosophically talk to our team about the fact that they also started new, or they also started in a business or in a job with zero experience, where they had a huge amount of upside if they just could do the do. And so I think that when we approach adding people to the team philosophically, it's more about how we can help that person, because we've had members of our team, obviously, Mandy mentioned Tyler and Robert, both of them were on our team and then they went off to do their own thing. We've had a guy named Phoenix who was on our team and he went off to do his own thing. We've had other people that were on our team and have gone off to do their own thing. And I think that there's part of you that's there's some frustration in that because you've spent time and energy and money developing them, but then there's also that part of you that is understanding and excited because we also did that same thing. So I think that you look at things and you're like, oh, I could do it differently or I could do it better. And I think that we try to instill that in our team. And I think for us regarding the team, like in terms of goals and all that stuff, also philosophically, everybody has a bad year, or everybody has a kid, or has a divorce, or has a health crisis, or whatever the thing is that happens in their lives. And I think that I don't think the general public understands two things about real estate agents. And the first is I don't think that they understand the resiliency that we have as an industry. We've been to conferences and some of the stories that people will tell about like, oh, my husband was in this car accident and like the jaws of life. And then it took him a year to rehabilitate. And I had my best year ever because all I could, all these crazy things. And I think real estate agents are super, super resilient. And I think that most people, the general public, have no idea what's happening in our immediate lives. They don't know,
Of course not.
that my dad had a heart attack and that I was going to the hospital, 2 and 3 times a week, or, over the 3 or 4 months to try to figure out what's going on and try to help with that. And, just
All the things.
All the things.
And I think you have to come from an ethos of plenty in order to be successful in this business. And I think if you have team members that are nervous about new team members taking, that's not an ethos of plenty. And I think that having that sort of instilled in the agents, like there is enough to go around, like you said, like sometimes we'll compete, but there is enough. Like we're both very successful teams because there is enough.
Exactly.
Right. The whole theory of abundance and scarcity, you come from the abundance world, no doubt.
I think you have to. I think if not, you'll either be miserable or fail. Like those are the only two options if you don't come from a mentality of abundance, right?
I mean, you kind of already answered my next question, was how you define your team's culture. But I think you just kind of answered it. It's like you're very supportive.
I mean, I think what David said, and it like, I'm going to be cheesy right now, but Compass's mission statement is helping everyone find their place in the world. And I think it's one of the most brilliant mission statements. And it doesn't just apply to buyers and sellers. Like we want to help these little agents find their place in the world. Like real estate can be an amazing career. Like you can make a lot of money. You can have your own schedule, even though it means working a lot. Like if you need to take off in the middle of the day to go see your kids play, you can. Like, and there's many jobs that just that is not a possibility. So I think that it's a great career path for so many people. And I think like having that understanding within the team.
Yeah, I think that's
helps us bring on new people.
I think that accounts for how it can expand because we try to impart that. I think that what happens though is like where it gets complicated because we had a team for a really long time, as you mentioned. I mean, yeah, and I think that what ends up happening is that, I think we're pretty good about remembering the origin of where we came from and sort of what we came from. And I think that sometimes what happens with a team is that you know, everybody's like, as people get more and more successful, then they think to themselves, oh, I only want to work with people that are super successful. And so they can be like, it sort of becomes an us versus them in a way. And so you have to really, I find that you have to really work hard to sort of overcome that we have to remind people like, well, remember when you were only doing, 6 million and that was good enough at the time for you. And now you're doing, 10 million or you're doing 12 million. And this person still is only doing the 6 million and that's okay for them. And so sometimes that's part of the culture that you're trying to help.
Innately, everybody has their own speed, and I think you have to respect that. And we also have a mentorship program, which I think helps. Like, I think it gives some senior members on the team some ownership. There's a small monetary component of it, but I think
how long is that program?
It's sort of like a self-determined, 6 months or so, but like the mentor graduates the mentee, like, okay, they're ready to go out on their own now. And like, it's,
Is it mandatory? Like if you have a new agent coming in, they have to go into the...
Basically, we try to assign them somebody or try to get somebody to work with them. Because what ended up happening, honestly, is we ended up fielding all of the questions. And so having sort of a layer to have somebody else field the questions regarding the contract or whatever the thing might be was extremely helpful.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys that because I occasionally get people asking me if I will mentor them, not necessarily part of my team, just like from the outside rest of the world. And that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
So
it is a lot of work.
And I would like for you to mentor me. So let me know when you're available.
Well, and I do. All right. So this is a good idea. I know you guys value community a lot, and it's a big part of what you do. Tell us how you engage community as part of your business as well.
I mean, I feel like we philosophically feel like the fabric of the neighborhood is such an important part of the growth of a real estate community, right? And so I think, we like to support small businesses. We like to support schools. We generally choose to philanthropic endeavors, like maybe one more community arts-based and one more need-based to support every year. But like, I have 3 kids in 3 different schools.
That's a lot right there.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of driving.
The participation in like each of their schools has been, I think, really fulfilling for both of us. I mean, like, he used to come to the preschool all the time and everyone would be like, Uncle David, like for every Thanksgiving potluck, he's there. And
yeah, and I think we try to be aware of what's happening. So like I can give you, we just did this. I think I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
So basically, normally what we do is around Thanksgiving time, we send out a message to all of our past clients and do pie day, and we sort of offer them a Thanksgiving pie. And just, with inflation and sort of the people that are having the greatest amount of need are the people that are suffering the most. And so instead of doing pie day this year, we sort of canceled pie day and we did like a canned food drive and then just donated what we would otherwise spend on pies to like a local food bank. And I think that we try to match what's happening in the world with what it is that we can do and what we can contribute to.
Because food insecurity is at a height right now that it hasn't been in for a long time. And so like, while our, wealthy by many standards clients enjoy getting that pie, we felt like it was so much more meaningful instead of giving them the pie, like on their behalf, giving, a donation.
And people will sometimes order the pie and then not come and get. And I think that was really where it was for me, is they'll reserve it because we ask them to reserve it so we get the right amount, and then we end up donating the extra pies anyway.
Yeah. And
it sort of was like, if you can order it, and then people will sometimes not pick it up because they get busy doing their own thing, and I totally get that. When Mandy and I talked about it, I just was like, it seems to me that if we got a bag of rice rather than a pie, that rice could go a lot further for a lot of people. So we made a donation, and that just seemed the best way to help as many people as possible. So we try to be aware of all of those things.
And this was totally his idea. He's being modest. He was like, instead of pie day, let's do this.
That's a great story.
But that's like a whole paradigm shift with the way, like, I think about this stuff all the time, and the way the amount of waste, it's crazy. I'm not trying to be,
no, I mean,
come across that way. I'm just saying we
stopped doing brochures because everybody comes in your open house, and guess what they do? They pick up a brochure because it's there and they're nervous.
And it goes
and then they walk out the door and they throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
And it's like from a waste of paper. And again, this was all him. He's like, we are doing the QR code. Everybody has a phone. My 96-year-old grandmother has an iPhone. And the QR code has had a tremendous glow up. But you walk in to the open house, you get the brochure on your phone, you have it, and you're not wasting all this paper. And people are still like, you don't do brochures?
Right.
And we're like, no one needs a brochure. Like, there are so many ways to find those gorgeous pictures.
But let's just talk about the practicality of that on another level. Is like also the creation of the brochure is man hours.
How about the price change?
Yeah.
How about you have 50 brochures?
I don't put prices
there.
on things anymore.
Right. I mean
price up on request, and it's like.
But then what's the point of having the brochure in a way? You know,
It's got the condo fee on it.
I mean, I just think in the world that we live in, I mean, and again, it sort of came because we were talking about things, and, you know, Mandy's whole thing for a long, long time was the single serve water bottle.
Oh my gosh, the single serve water bottle is, fish are plastic now, like we're destroying our oceans because of these stupid the plastic water bottle.
And don't get me wrong, we also have a stack of them that are labeled Mandy and David in an office somewhere. But
Right.
but
they hurt my feelings.
But sort of you sort of follow a trend, and then you have to that's when you walk in and you're like, oh, there's Robin Brent's water bottle. You're like, we got to get a water bottle. You know what I mean? Everybody.
I saw Matt's Max yesterday, or Max's Matt. Let's say that 3 times.
Oh yeah,
fast.
yeah. Our doormat.
Oh, we have. I got one in the car. Let me know if you want me to bring it up.
Totally.
But yeah, so you have to sort of follow a trend, or you start the trend, or whatever the case may be. And I think that what happened is we just were talking about it, and I went to show this listing. And I went inside, and there was like the brochure, and then there was a stack of paper on the neighborhood, and then there was the stack of features about the house, and it was probably literally a ream of paper.
Right.
And I'm like, this is going to go under contract. It was priced super well. And I'm like, this is going to go under contract in a weekend, and all of this is just going to end up in the trash. And I'm like, and I don't have kids, but I very much love her kids and kids in general. And I'm just like, I cannot contribute to destroying the world because somebody needs to walk away with a piece of paper.
And they don't want it. They just pick it up because it's there.
Yeah.
Right. We stopped doing brochures, I think, right at the pandemic.
Yeah, we did too.
But the QR code, we stopped doing that just because the sentiment with like the COVID-19, and then like there's an issue, not an issue, but there's backlog with that as well, because you have to change like the QR code, I think, on each one of the properties. And I think one of our
we do it as a plaque inside.
Okay.
So it's one piece of paper.
And you guys, do you still do?
Same. That's how I do it.
Do you still do the like the placards throughout the property? Like you go in and.
Not anymore. I felt after, at a certain point, you're just like, this wall is blue. And like, you're just pointing out stuff that this is the kitchen because you see the stove. I mean, right. I think we sort of got away from that. I think that one of the things that we tried, like if it's a particular, I think one of the things that we try to do is have enough in the description to sort of talk about the various things. And I think sometimes what we'll do, depending on the property, is sometimes we'll put in like in the agent notes, like, hey, make sure this faces south, or whatever, whatever the thing might be. I mean, it just depends. That
was one of the things I liked most about you, and I think we copied from you, is you go into some of your new developments or really high-end projects. It'd have your, Mandy and David logo, but it's like, this is the type of stone, this is the type of floor or whatnot. These are the cabinets are from North Carolina, whatever it is. But that went a long way with agents and the clients going through the property.
We try to put that in we try to put that in the agent remarks now, more than just, again, because it's just, you end up just throwing it away, never using it again. And you still got to cut it all out and hang it all up and make it look nice. And then it pulls the paint off the wall, and you got to, I mean, it's a thing.
You've been there. Yeah.
Been a great conversation. A lot of times Max and I both will get, new agents coming into the industry, or they just passed their license. What advice would you give to a brand new licensed agent coming into the industry, especially in the current market that we're going into?
I mean, there's so many different things. I mean, join
a team.
Yeah.
100% join a team. Find a person and follow them around and do
join
whatever.
Join a powerhouse team. There's Mandy and David.
And then there's Mandy and David.
Or just find a successful agent and say, like, what can I do for you? I mean, if you have literally no knowledge of I feel like it's learning another language. mean, passing your real estate exam teaches you zero about real estate.
doubt.
Like, people don't know the term appraisal. People don't understand like what, I mean, I think you have to like, I think this atmosphere, it would be close to impossible to be successful, really successful without
starting without joining somebody. I mean, I think for me it's I think you have to join a team that has processes and procedures. I mean, that's sort of my thing. I love processes and procedures, and you have to know how to operate outside of those. I'm always like, you have to know the rules in order to know that you're breaking them. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important for us that we have guidelines, and I think that's really important. And I think like the one thing, I know this is going to sound super crazy, but the one thing I would tell an agent to do, a new agent, is they need to time block. I think time blocking is like the most important thing that you can do, because then you can keep some semblance of control over your life. And
but it also holds you to doing the things that you should be doing. Because if you're like from 11 to 11:30, I make my calls, or from 11:30 to 12:30, I go see properties. Like, honor the time blocking, and you will be successful.
And I think you should personally time block as well. Because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I got to go to the grocery store, and then when I like really need to go to the grocery store, I actually put it in my calendar, and then I just go to the grocery store in that window or whatever. I think that like if you don't do that, then you lose control of your day and your time. And I think the other thing I would tell an agent, a brand new agent, and this is really the biggest difference, in my opinion, of somebody that's successful versus somebody that's not, is you have to not be afraid to be a real estate agent. And I think that honestly, Mandy in particular is like, if you like were on a scale of 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, she's like a 15 on that scale, because she literally can work into every conversation in the absolute most natural way. If you decide to buy or sell a house, I think you should hire me. And if you can say that as a real estate agent, that's, I think, when you really step over the line into being much, much more successful. You have to recognize that you're not trying to sell somebody, or it's not that transaction. You're not trying to get them to buy something. And a lot of people, it takes them a long time to get to that position. And I think that we work really hard through our training to get people to be able to know that as soon as they possibly can. I think it's a game changer career-wise.
I mean, you go into any conference and they talk about scripting, and people are like, ooh, scripting. And I'm like, scripting is just owning what you're saying, like in a natural way, like that. It's just learning to say it in the way that feels comfortable to you.
Look, it is all practice, and it's not everyone is just the born, like, just out of the box salesperson can just spout it out, the 90-second elevator pitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It takes work. Yeah. There's tricks to this stuff.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I'm very similar in that regard. It's like when I'm having a conversation with people, I want them to know what I'm doing. I want them to.
That's very smart. We've not had anybody on the show state that they have like scripts or they're able to work into their conversation. I mean, that's very.
It's not even necessarily a script.
And it doesn't feel scripting to me. It feels like just me, who I am. But like when you're teaching people who it might not come as naturally to, or whatever, like it's just being comfortable with saying the right thing. That's all a script is. Right. Yeah. I mean, you think of like actors, they have a script that they have to learn to get up on stage or be in a movie and look natural saying the things. That's what it is.
Like we had our team meeting yesterday, and after each team meeting, we'll do some sort of a discussion. And yesterday's discussion is it's your 30-second elevator pitch on how's the market. Right, because everybody's getting that, whether it's another agent, a lender, a buyer, or seller. But go round robin and have each agent, what is the elevator pitch? Like, what are you saying to someone? It's like, how's the market? We've had Nate and Ann from Washington Fine Properties, and they gave their elevator pitch. But like, you've got to have something when someone comes in and asks that question, because everybody's asking that right now. Even in a good market, like 2 years ago, like, how's the market? What's my house worth?
Yep.
What's your answer to that?
Yeah, go for it.
Again, it depends on who you're talking to, right? If it's another agent, it's going to be a certain answer. If it's a seller, it's going to be a certain answer. If it's a buyer, it's a certain answer. Yeah. But I mean, in general, like, we're going into a slow market. Is now the best time to sell? It depends on what you have, what it's priced at, where it's located. With the buyers, I think that now's a great time to buy. We're calling all of our developers, investors. Now's a good time to go in and offer 10, 20% off list price. See what the seller says. Some are more desperate than others.
Yeah, it depends, right? Like
it depends on the conversation or who your audience is.
I mean, I think that's the thing about it. I mean, I think again, philosophically, which we talked, I've said that word like 20 times, but I think that the answer always depends because it depends upon what every person's situation is. And I think that that's part of the skills that we try to teach the agents on our team is that, you know, when you're super busy, everyone's like, oh, the market's crazy. Like the market may not be crazy. It depends on what aspect of the market you're talking about. And I think that that is a really important distinction and that you can't get caught up in sort of you can't get caught up in any specific aspect of the market. You have to just be like, well, how the market is totally just depends. I mean, I just wrote on a house that was listed at 3.2 and it went for 3.5 with 5 offers on it and 6 pre-inspections. And, you know, just saying that to people is, they're like, and then they're like, well, the people that could buy that probably don't care about money. And I'm like, well, actually they did care about, but you know, the house met the need. It was in the location. It was this and it was that. And so I think you have to train people or encourage people to internalize the dialogues and the scripting. And the answer is almost always, it just depends. It really does depend on what you're looking at.
But I think you have to have a good conversation. Like to your point earlier, you can't just say the market's bad or the market's crazy. You got to go in deep with like some good details. And it doesn't matter if it's an agent, a lender, buyer or seller, but you want to have like some data to back it up. And then you sound more informative of, you know, whatever.
How do you feel about, what do they say, marry the house and date the rate?
Yeah, date the rate, marry the house.
What's your take on that?
I love that. I'm telling that to everybody. Like in 3 years, the rate's going to be different. Hopefully it's lower, but if not, it's like, don't get so caught up in the rate because again, if you're looking at $1 million property, 18 months ago it was going for like 1.2, 1.3, whatever. Now going to offer 800 or 900, right? So there's a 30 to 40% potential swing there. So what if the rate went from like 3 to 6%? That's a snapshot in time.
I just try to put that into perspective from my own personal experience. You know, when I was buying condos for investments, like 15 years ago, the rates were never like, they weren't extremely low like they were during the last 2 years. So that was insanely low money. That was like, it's like everything was inverted almost, you know? And that's not, that was a little blip in time.
Yep.
Life just continues and interest rates change and stock market changes and the housing market. You have to make a decision.
Don't you remember when nobody had to put any money down or really fill out an application? Those were the wild days.
No, you get more money back. You would
get money back at the closing.
Yeah, you get money back. You can do 103% finance. I mean, I bought my first place with 103% financing.
I bought $1 million house with 0 down.
Wow.
I mean,
I bought
no documents.
Yeah.
You were just like,
I was just like,
I make about this. I mean, yeah, everything. Yeah, for sure. I think that with it, when it comes to the rate and stuff, you just have to, again, you know, you're no worse if you buy now because then you're locked in. So if rates go up, you're locked in at a rate. You know what I mean?
If they go down, you can refinance.
And if you go down, you can refinance. So I mean, I think that that's a good conversation.
And the thing is, like, people need housing, right? Life changes, death, divorce, birth, whatnot. But like, people need housing, more space, less space.
And there is a housing, and there's a housing shortage. I mean, that's not going to change. And so I'm trying to encourage everybody I can to buy as well because that piece of it will not change.
Well, Mandy and David, it's been a fabulous conversation. Flew by. Thank you so much for coming out and spending time with us.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you for having us. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So now Brent has rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Oh, my gosh. Here we go.
These are secret questions? Okay.
No. Well, no.
Okay.
So first, do you guys watch TV?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What is your guilty pleasure?
For TV?
No, just in general, like in life. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I have to think about that. What's yours?
Sleeping in, which shouldn't be a guilty pleasure, but society seems